Hello, and welcome to a new edition of the Hopkinton Hangout Hour. I am your host, Jim Cousins, along with the rest of the HCAM team who produces this live hour from 2 to 3 every weekday, as well as other times throughout the week as things happen. So today we're going to be talking to John Cuttino, if he is able to make it for this meeting. We'll be keeping an eye out for him to see if he's able to show up. If not, we'll be catching you up with some of the stuff that we've been doing around here. So, Tom, I'll be asking you about the upcoming Mother's Day stuff that you've been doing out on social media and getting an update on that. And also, Mike, I'd like you to talk about the new series, or actually it's a new version of the series that will be coming out on Wednesdays. And then we can also touch upon the Friday night series, which actually we'll be talking more about that in the second half hour of today's show. So welcome everybody. And Tom, what's been happening for Mother's Day right around the corner?
We did put out a question out there on our social media pages, asking people what their plans are. Obviously, it's strange times right now, and restaurants are closed, and a lot of the stores are closed. So, for all you watching the show out there, we want to know on the YouTube live stream or the top post of our Facebook page what you're doing for Mother's Day. And what gifts are you getting your mother for Mother's Day? I'm sure there's a lot of online ordering going on right now. And I have to admit, the post didn't get a big response. Somebody did respond in one of the groups that they are going to be making a nice brunch for their mother, which is actually one of the things that I'll be doing for my mother with the assistance of my dad and my 2 nephews and my niece as well. Will be making a nice brunch for the mother. But so let us know what you're doing for Mother's Day and what your plans are. It's coming up on Sunday, so certainly don't want to forget about the mother.
So is that brunch a surprise for your mother? I hope she's not watching this show.
It is. I think she has an idea that we're doing something like that, but I don't think she exactly knows what it is.
Mm-hmm. You're going to be doing some more of that beef on the grill that you're always talking about?
Perhaps. It might end up being kind of like an omelet kind of situation. Maybe more of the breakfast foods. Me and my dad are still hashing out the plans, so we'll have to see. But I think we're leaning towards more of a breakfast food, but maybe some steak and eggs or something like that.
Oh, I see. That's a nice idea. I actually can't tell you what I'm doing for my mother because my mom watches this show and she knows it's coming because when I ordered it, there was no place to put in a sentiment or a thought or anything like that. So my wife was saying, how is she going to know? So I told her to be on the lookout for something. And that's really all I can actually say about it. How about you, Matt? What are you doing for your mom?
I'm not exactly sure yet. The only thing my mom ever says, she's not huge on gifts. She just doesn't want to have to cook. So, and obviously right now it's hard to go. You can't go out to eat right now. So we're probably going to get Chinese food or something. I would cook breakfast, but I never get up early. So if I can get up early, I will absolutely cook breakfast for her. But my early is like 9 and her early is 7. So there's a bit of a disconnect there. I think the bigger deal in my family is it's actually my sister-in-law's first Mother's Day with an actual baby. She was pregnant during the Mother's Day last year, but now her and my brother have a 9-month-old who is incredible. So, and my mom thanked me for bringing that up because she has to remember to get my sister-in-law a gift.
That's really nice. Do they live close by?
Yeah, they live in town. They live down by Whitehall.
Do you have any idea what he's doing for
No, I
His
have
wife?
no idea. We have not seen them much because they are being very protective of their baby, which I get, but it sucks because she's the cutest baby in the world and she is so happy and sweet, and we all miss her very much. But we did get to see her on Sunday for my
Yeah.
dad's birthday. So
Yeah. Bob, what are you laughing at over there? You're muted.
I'm just smiling because I'm sure that Matt's right that his niece is the cutest baby ever because I've seen a lot of babies and I haven't seen his niece, but I'm sure she's the cutest ever.
well, all
And that
babies are
wasn't
the
a
cutest
laugh.
babies.
That was just a smile.
Okay. All right.
Oh, I
And
wanted
that's
to.
appropriate on Mother's Day too.
All right. Well, we're going to transition to our interview with John Cuttino because he is right now in the process of joining our meeting. So thank you guys for the Mother's Day thoughts. That was interesting stuff to hear.
No problem.
Okay. He is connected to audio. I'm expecting to see him anytime now. Welcome, John. Welcome to our show. If you're muted, please just unmute. Okay.
Am I
And
there?
then if you have your camera connected, you'll just need to start your video.
Working on it.
All right.
Right in the bottom left-hand corner is a little video camera.
It's no, mine's up on the top. Sorry,
Oh, are you on an iPad?
I'm on an iPad.
Yep, my mother-in-law. I haven't seen the interface on that, but she was saying that stuff is along the top on there.
Because I kept looking for it in the bottom corner. It's not there. It's not there. And I decided to look up in the top corner. Oh, because I never used the iPad, but it was just quicker, and I just found myself being able to use it. So I just now. So I'm absolutely winging it at this point, using my using this thing. Okay.
All right. Now, come on. You must have experience doing the select board meetings virtually, right?
But that I don't. I use the iPad for the agenda, and then I use either a desktop or I borrow a laptop.
Oh, I see. Okay. Well, thank you for joining us today.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right. Now, the thing that really impelled me to ask you onto the show was because I've seen some pictures of what you've been doing recently. And, you know, as everybody knows, this is such an unprecedented time and we've never gone through something like this before. And there is a lot of, I would say, caring going on, a lot of people looking out for their neighbors, people looking where they can help and what they can be doing. And I would like, if you wouldn't mind, to talk a little bit about some of the recent things that you've been doing to help community.
Well, you know, it's. Yeah, I mean, I'm not the only one. I really don't like talking about myself because I like doing things in the background. But it's like I've always said, you know, in Hopkinton we take care of each other. You know, and that's
Yeah.
what it's about. And you know, through all these crises, we think about snowstorms and hurricanes and everything. It's just the nature of being an American or being a New Englander, and even more importantly, being a Hiller. Um, that you know, we look out for each other. We look out for the elderly that are in the neighborhood, or people that might need help. And so, you know, when this hit, you know, I like everybody else had a little more time. I didn't have meetings 4 or 5 nights a week. Those afternoons, the calls that I would get from the town manager or somebody else if I could come into town hall. So you know, and it's, you know, it's where I can help out. You know, my wife's a physician at Milford Regional, and and oh shoot, I'm actually having my driveway paved right now, and I'm
Yep.
just called by the. I'm sorry, I have to step away for 1 second.
No, go right ahead. Go right ahead. Come back when you can. So it's interesting that he started that off by saying that he doesn't really like to talk about it. I think a lot of people are in that same situation. And I find that it's amazing, not because, it's amazing, not because of people telling their stories. These are stories from the community. We've had so many episodes with people who are making masks, and we have episodes on people who about the art of neighboring. So when I ask John like what he's doing, it's not about, oh, John, you know what cool thing you're doing. It is about what's happening in our community. And he said it himself. It's all about Hopkinton caring for each other. So I'm glad you were able to sit back, John. And I'm just interested I want you to know that I'm interested to hear what you're doing, because you are part of a fabric of many people who have been cycling onto this show and talking about the little things that they're doing. Sometimes they're big, sometimes they're small, but it is all about people helping each other.
Well, the big one, were the meetings with the BAA, Mayor Marty Walsh and Governor Charlie Baker, and some of the other elected representatives from the other 8 cities and towns on rescheduling the marathon. That was huge. That they didn't just cancel it. That we went on to a September 14th running of the 124th Boston Marathon. It was just what I loved about it was Mia Walsh basically said to me, we're the finish and you guys are the start. That's where most of the people are. And I joked back, everyone is at the start. Most people make it to the finish. You thought that was kind of fun, but and then following that was to actually follow through and try to encourage people not to run, to respect the first responders and the nobility or whatever of the longest running marathon in the world.
Mm-hmm.
It really is the grand dame of marathons. Everybody wants to run Boston. If somebody, most people that would have run it wouldn't have been for a running club or something. They would have been more like the bandits that we used to have years ago that may not be in the best shape, because all the running clubs around really helped out. And they said that they would sanction any of their members if they went out and ran it on their own. So what we were worried about was somebody that really wasn't in shape, that really may not have been able to do it, that gets a cramp halfway or falls or twists an ankle, and then we have to send a first responder out. It's a free world. They're open streets. Anybody could have run it. There was no law. People are saying, what are you going to do? You're going to arrest people for running? No, you can't. Hey, I'm a libertarian. I believe, you don't mess with me, I don't mess with you. And it's the same thing. These people, they absolutely could have run, but what was great about it, they showed their respect for the first responders and for the marathon itself. And there were only a handful of people that ran it, and luckily they were all safe and nobody was put in harm's way. Other than that, it was just stuff that for me. We got a call. One of my neighbors is CEO of Tennant Hospitals, and which one of them St. Vincent's, and wanted to know if we had any connections to get them some PPE. So we contacted the BAA, and then we got 3,000 rain ponchos that they normally. Right there it is, right there. 3,000 rain ponchos that they normally use for actually the last 2 years, as I know everybody in Hopkinton knows what a cold and dreary start we had for the last 2 years. And since we weren't going to be using them this year, they gave them to us at the Board of Selectmen for me to bring to St. V's Hospital. So that gave them a couple weeks worth of ponchos, and then a couple times Milford Hospital ran short, and so I basically just hit up some friends and some other contacts that I had and got some delivered over to Milford Regional. But again, it's just answering the call, and so many people do it. That's what I was saying at yesterday's select board meeting, is that I just want to thank everybody for stepping up. Not just sitting back and feeling sorry that either they're not working or the kids are home and everybody's upset. Let's just make the best of the time and do something good. whether it's just going for a jog or working out or testing out a new diet or reading another book or just do something that makes you feel better about yourself and better about the world. I remember for the last 3 or 4 years driving by EMC Park and seeing that granite slab that says EMC Park all worn out. I'd go by and say, oh, to my wife, oh my gosh, somebody should fix that sign. Somebody should fix that sign. So she finally said to me, well, why don't you do it? And I said, gee, okay. So I went and got the high ketone paint that it needed, and then I snuck over and I started doing it. I got caught by Robert when I was painting it. But it just made me feel better. I drive by, and people drive by. It doesn't look like it's worn out. Then I went down below when it says "Welcome to EMC Park," and I started doing that one until it started raining on me. So I still have to finish that sign. But it's little things like that it makes me feel better, and it's better for the town. I was the facility director at Golden Pond for a few years. And I know that for people that take care of facilities and stuff, like a lot like DPW workers, that when everything's going great, people just expect it.
Mm-hmm.
But when stuff goes bad, the snow wasn't cleared fast enough, or this or that, a pipe was broken. People here, they give you the complaints. So a couple of weeks ago, right after we lost power up in my neighborhood, and I mean the DPW guys worked day and night pulling down the trees, cleaning up, and everything else. So I sent lunch over to all the DPW workers on Friday afternoon. Again, it's just those things, and I know I'm not the only one because I'm hearing these stories all the time. We have the maker of that limoncello for it's a Fuchesi or something like that. That donates hundreds of gallons of hand cleaner to the and they were actually Marty's liquor, Fabrizia, that's what it was, Fabrizia. And gave a bunch to Marty's Liquors, and Marty's Liquors was giving them out to people that wanted them. Now that this is stuff that's it's better than gold at this point, to be able to find hand sanitizer. And they're giving it away free. That's what it's about. It's people just taking care of each other. The KFC, Knights of Columbus, 2 blood drives. I went and gave blood yesterday. But again, if this, and everybody can do these things, and I'm just so happy to be part of a community that pitches in and does stuff, and it's just great. It's great, and it's like for my kids to see that this is how they grew up. They grew up with a grandfather. My father retired early and then volunteered teaching English and American history to immigrants that came into the country.
Mm-hmm.
And John, oh, sorry to interrupt you. You finish your thought.
Yeah, and it was just so those are the shoes that I'm trying to fill. When at his wake, I found out that he made 3,500 people citizens and went to all of their swearings in. He was just, amazing. He spoke 5 languages. So those are the shoes that I'm trying to fill. It's like I'm never going to be able to do as much as my father did. And I want my kids to look at that too and say, geez, I want to try and keep up to my dad. I'm just trying to set a good example.
Yeah, I just think it's so great, all these little things that people are doing, and just so many different people contributing, making masks, PPE, face shields, all kinds of stuff like that. John, I think you mentioned that you knew somebody, or perhaps it was your wife, that works over at the Milford Regional Medical Center, and you dropped off some PPE there as well. Have you gotten any kind of update on how it's going over there?
Well, yeah, actually, I get the updates every day. And actually, right now they're down to only 1 day of gowns again. So my wife just this morning said, "John, you got to find me some more gowns." So that's actually what I'm going to do right after I leave your call. Is I'm just going to get online and see where we can get them from. Because it still hasn't been verified. I haven't heard it from an official source that supposedly Milford Hospital had some of their PPE a few weeks ago hijacked by a government agency that was coming in. They thought that they needed it more. So I haven't had that verified, but but they're having a tough time. Even today, there was a flyover, and they went over. They went over from Boston over Framingham, and then straight to Worcester. They didn't go over Milford Regional. So what can we do for Milford Regional? So we as a town, can we all get together and pitch in and maybe have a biplane flyover with a little banner behind it saying, we love you, Milford Regional, because they're the hospital and take care of us here in Hopkinton.
Oh, absolutely. And as somebody that lives pretty close to Milford Regional, I could testify that is a very busy hospital, and there's a lot of towns and a lot of people that rely on that hospital.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it really is, and it's and again, just like all places right now, they're stressed. My wife comes home from being there and is extremely stressed. Yeah, it's a tough time, and hopefully that we're nearing the end of it, and we're going to open up soon, and people are going to get out. There's the whole mental health aspect of it. People that were having a tough time before this, and now it's making it even harder on them. And they're when they talk about elective surgeries and everything else, somebody that needs a knee replacement or a hip replacement, it's not really that elective. Maybe if somebody wants to have a facelift or something else like that, or Botox injections or something. Okay, that's elective. But if you need a knee replacement and you're taking some of these OxyContin or something else, some of these other drugs to relieve the pain, it could get precarious for people. Sorry.
That's okay. I think you're definitely. I think you're right on that, and I do hope that things can get back to as normal as we can get, as quick as we can get. Mm-hmm. I do want to follow up on, because I think it was really intriguing when you were talking about your father and trying to follow the example that he gave you and pass that on too, because I find that personally really interesting. I think that, and this is just my own personal take on it, as time has gone on, from the time when we were kids to the time of now, life has become so much more busy, so much more connected, as evidenced by you just got a call there. I just got a text that came in. We're like everybody, it's like all the time. And we can get caught up in that, and we can get really, really wrapped up in that. And I see that a lot because I work at a community TV station, and we're really exist for our community to come in and create programming for the rest of Hopkinton. And I don't know what it is. I really don't. But Hopkinton, all the stars have aligned on Hopkinton. We have a fantastic school system. We have a great town department system. And we have a great community organizations system. Everybody is so supportive, and everybody is just so caring. I just think that, I'm not just trying to oh yeah, that's really cool. It's really actually very cool. And what do you see on your side, looking at DPW and looking at the other areas in town that are still trying to hold meetings, still trying to do the work during this time when everything is shut down? What are you seeing?
Yeah, well, like I was just saying, we're in a great place, financially. We just talked about that at yesterday's meeting, and some of the other things. So one of the great things is that when the economy was great, we were able to build a new DPW facility. We built a new library. We've got the marathon school. We refitted the town hall.
Yeah.
So at this time where things are going to get tight, to the town manager, what town manager was saying, we're in a good place.
Yep.
Our first responders, just think about that. 2 years in a row, we're the safest community in Massachusetts.
Right.
That's amazing. 4 years ago we were number 3, and I joked with the chief, "Come on, how are we going to be number 1?" And then a year and a half later, we're number 1, and again we're number 1. That's huge. We have great school systems, but we're also the safest community. Because in order to have a great school system, well, we have to be safe. We have to have people that feel like that they can come here and not have to worry about their public safety.
Right.
And then our health department in the town is just amazing. Sean is just phenomenal, coming in with all of his new programs and everything. We're not just it's not just a department that takes care of septic systems.
Right.
He's out there getting grants and setting us up for all of these new programs. And some of the programs are the model for the state.
Yeah.
So when this coronavirus is hitting, I know that when his department speaks, they're speaking from a great position.
Right. And that to me is just, this is what blows my mind. The safest community, and also I don't remember which place did this, but they ranked Hopkinton as number 3 in the state for school systems. And the first 2 schools are not public schools. So it's literally the number 1 public school on that list. And if you look at the expenditures, it is not at the top. Hopkinton is very in the middle of what they spend per pupil. So it's not always about the money. And there's just teamwork, leadership, and camaraderie that goes on in this community that I look at and think is amazing.
Well, it's also parenting. We have to bring that in also. We've got great families here in town. That comes right down to what I was saying. We take care of each other. We take care of our kids. I know that my kids, had tutoring all the time. When it came for standardized testing, they had tutoring. They had tutoring for their calculus. They had tutoring for other things. And if you looked, we have what, two or three Kumans in town.
Mm-hmm.
People. Again, your children lived up to your expectations, and we in Hopkinton have high expectations for our children.
Right.
And they live up to them. And we're blessed again with a great school system, great public safety, and as you said, great teams.
Right. Now, when you are going out, what type of precautions are you taking?
Well, I always have a box of 100 gloves. See, well, now I'm in construction, so I always had masks. I always had gloves because I'm always working. But the one thing is, I had the really good masks because when I wanted to make sure that I was protected when I was working with fiberglass insulation or everything. And I remember my wife saying, "Be careful wearing the good masks. They're only supposed to be for first responders." And so I started wearing the homemade mask. And I want to put a shout out to the Karp family and Emily Karp that has made hundreds and hundreds of masks. She made the masks that we have on the statues on the common.
Yeah.
That's to remind people that it's important, just to protect other people from you and to protect yourself from other people, because there are times when we might have to get closer than 6 feet, and if one has a mask on, that's we're protecting each other.
Right. And that's a great story. We had the Karp family on this show. Did you know they did not know how to sew before this? And the mother just went to Emily, "Hey, what if we get a sewing machine?" And boom, this is what happened. And this is what I love about it. It's just somebody seeing something that they can do, and here it goes.
Yeah, I ended up sending one of my sewing machines over to them because that's how many they were making. It's amazing. Then she did the video of how to do it and made it look so easy. It was just great. And and her nails were absolutely perfect too.
We made a few in my house, and they did not come out looking like that.
It takes practice.
Yeah, it really does. Thank you, John. Thank you so much for taking this time to share some of your observations and some of the stories of what you've been doing and what you've been seeing here.
Yeah, and I want to thank you guys. Really, part of it is trying to keep some levels of normalcy around. And having you guys there, whether you're working from home or wherever, that people expect to see your programming, and to keep some level of consistency is just great for the town. And I say that to all the stores that are open, and to people that are working. So thank you for working. Thank you for bringing this, and really thank you to everybody here in Hopkinton and for taking care of each other, because we're gonna get this, but we're gonna get through it together.
That is absolutely right. And thank you for that. Appreciate all your time. And we'll
Great.
see you soon.
Thank you so much.
All right. Take care.
Okay, bye-bye.
All right. So that was John Cuttino. Very interesting conversation. And we're going to be transitioning to another very interesting conversation. I'm bringing Cheryl Perreault into our meeting and welcoming my co-host, Mike Tarosian, for this half hour. Hey, Mike.
Hey, Jim. Hey, Jim.
All right.
Nice job with John. Great story.
Yeah. Very nice guy. All right. Oh, and there we go. Cheryl, welcome.
Hello. Oh, I wanted to show my mug. I have kitchen table today.
Thank you. That is, don't let that drop, because that's one of the best mugs we ever got. It's thick. So it holds the heat. It's big, so it holds a good amount.
Yeah.
Oh, I love mine.
Yes, it's a good hearty mug, and I use it often.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, I'm always grateful for a reminder of HCAM TV and what you do for community there.
Oh, you're awesome. You're awesome. And that's why I'm really excited to have this half hour with you again, because quite honestly, going back, I don't know of anybody who has done more to bring art and connection through art into the HCAM studio. I've always been very appreciative of that. And from the very first days when I would walk down the hallway and hear people talking about, wow, that's really kind of cool in there, and excited to be on the show, and people who have seen the show and enjoyed it and told me how much they like that. It's, the stuff you do is really great. And just in case there's somebody who doesn't yet know, I would like to get kind of a recap. So, because you do some very interesting stuff. So, are you prepared to just give us a quick little rundown of all your shows?
Well, yes, the shows that I'm aware of that I do, yes. So that would start first with Wake Up and Smell the Poetry, and which is near and dear to my heart. And this coming Saturday was supposed to be the last program after 14 years of this taking place at HCAM Studios. Well, we had to stop programs in March, but still, you and Mike and John Ritz made it happen that we could have a live stream in the studio with just the folks who were features. Then that took place, and then since then, starting a Zoom and live stream program with features for April, and the next one will be Friday night.
Yes.
The variation of that is named Friday Night Wake Up Call, with just a feature of a 1 hour program instead of a 3 hour program we tended to be.
Yeah.
With one poet or writer and one singer-songwriter or duo, as we've had to. So I'm very excited that is happening Friday night, 7 to 8 o'clock. And
and kind of along with that, right? I'd like to just recognize that, because it's not just you're bringing artists to share their art with our community. You would bring themes in, and you would do special shows with teens, and it was just more that it was creating kind of an environment that was very welcoming. incredibly encouraging. I mean, the fact, quite honestly, Cheryl, that you were encouraging both me and Mike to write poetry is really kind of stunning, and it kind of shows the level to which you live this.
I'm glad to hear that.
Well, Jim, at least I did read a couple poems live. They weren't mine, but I still got out there and read them.
I had a daughter read her original work, so
That's right. That's close.
that's right.
That counts.
So that's lovely. I love all that. I really do. There's another show that you've been doing for quite a while now too, Meet Your Neighbor. And it's just, Cheryl, it's just great. Give us the elevator pitch for Meet Your Neighbor.
Well, that program too is very dear to my heart, that I have been offering with Mike Tarosian there, who does the filming and the editing and putting it on air. And I don't know, we have quite a few shows by now for the years that we have been doing this. And basically it is inviting and interviewing people from our community, as well as some friends who are involved who work in community, and talking to them about their lives, sharing some of their stories from life, asking for their philosophy and guiding wisdom and what's on their bucket list, and where they've been, and what they're thinking now. And every single program I've had the opportunity to do has been a great privilege to me to get to know them and learn from these people. And what I believe is that everybody can be a teacher, has something to teach us. And I think that's what the show gives us, the ability to learn from one another and get to know our community, feel a little closer to each other.
Yeah, it's not just learning life lessons or whatever, but you also learn how to do some weightlifting. You got to learn to do some juggling, some yoga. You have a little fun with it. It's just not a sit down and hard interview and pulling out the stuff out of the people, but they also teach you a few things too.
Yes.
And it's not just kind of like a fortune cookie, throwaway line. It really is true what you just said, that there is something to learn from everyone. And I find that to be honestly very real and very profound, because as my wife will tell you, if I talk to anybody long enough, I will eventually say, you should have a TV show. And that's just because everybody has something that is unique and interesting about them. And of course, it's easy to say, well, if we, interview the elders, they've been through a lot. They have had a lot of experience and they've gained wisdom through those experiences. And that is true. And it's also true that the younger people have an energy and have a world outlook that may be different, that may make us think differently. So it's a wonderful, eclectic mix of people's lives and experiences that you're bringing.
Oh, thank you.
It's also, go ahead.
Well, I've enjoyed everyone. I look forward to more, and I've been in touch with you recently and wanting to do more with the people who are the seniors and elders of our town, because I've been struck by, well, many things during this time of the pandemic, but how important the elders are in our community. As I think about my parents, and I think about people I know later in years, in their 80s and 90s and hundreds even. My great-grandmother lived to be 102. Wow. And the important stories and perspective they have to share. And I know from my own mother-in-law, in her last year, she was in her late 80s. I remember visiting her in the nursing home and crying, knowing that we were losing her, because she was such, in a way, a spiritual and historical rock for me, who gave me so much perspective when things like 9/11 were happening, and you can't understand the world, even though I'm an adult. And to think about losing people, all of these people have such wisdom that we need to respect and to consider how we are in relationship with them and to do things better too. So I am hoping to recruit the elders, the seniors in our town, and learn more from them through Meet Your Neighbor. Are you ready, Mike? I'm looking out. I'm going to connect with the senior center and start recruiting names. And if anyone has anyone in mind who can operate Zoom, that you can contact us through HCAM Studios also.
Absolutely. I am ready. And matter of fact, I just want to get my camera and get out of this house.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
I will put the telephoto lens on. I will bring a shotgun mic and I will do it from the street. And
All right.
we'll make it happen.
That sounds good.
Yeah. And just as a kind of an emphasis on how much we value that show, that is one of 2 regular shows that Mike routinely brings out multiple cameras in the field, which is
Right.
a lot of equipment and a lot of
Yes.
editing, but
Yes.
that's how much we love that show. And that's how much Mike enjoys doing it.
Yes, Mike does a great deal of important editing for the 2 shows, and I am grateful. And I'm happy that these programs continue to live on after being shown on HCAM channel through the archives.
Cheryl, now it seems like a lot, but you still also have storytelling. Tell us about the storytelling you bring to town.
Oh, well, we had been offering storytelling at Bittersweet Cafe, and that was a very popular new event. It started across the street at an event called Zen Mothra that Jack Speranza got started, and I assisted him. And then people, after he left, people were saying, where's the storytelling? We want this to happen more. And oftentimes the event was sold out at Bittersweet Cafe. And since then, when we had to stop as the cafe closed and relocated, I've been involved in a couple other communities getting true storytelling and seeing how people are really hungry to be in a social, recreational environment, having a little food or a drink together and listening to one another's true stories from life, to be inspired and laugh and maybe even cry with. And CJ we had just started one over at his new cafe site in February, and it went really well. And he was one of the features, in fact, telling a story from his life.
Okay.
So I'm happy to try to help and get more going. We'll see what's going on for CJ there. But storytelling, I see how important it is with the different events I'm involved with. So I am driven to keep it going.
Right. Okay. Right now, Tom Nappy's keeping an eye on our social media, and a question has come in for you.
Hi, Cheryl.
Hi, Tom.
John Ritz wanted to hear a joke from your stand-up comedy days.
Oh, no.
Wow. Wow. Talk about the Wayback Machine.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my memory for those days is not there anymore in terms of my routines. I actually did remember and recite 5-minute routines. My first one, stand-up comedy debut, took place related to Keefe Tech, night school class with Chris Nerney teaching, and that really led to all my getting involved in poetry and community art, and everything was taking that one class. So I have no jokes, but I do have 2 poems by 2 students that I am meeting with on Zoom currently, who are young people in the middle school. May I say those instead, John?
Now, yes, you may, but before you recite their poems, tell us about meeting them on Zoom and what you're doing.
Yeah. Well, I had been giving a few young people lessons in person before that on creative writing poetry and stories and prose. And then with the time of quarantine, started thinking about how it could be possible on Zoom. And I think it was the parents who suggested it, because I know it wasn't long ago in January, I was saying to a colleague, oh, I'm never going on Zoom. That's not for me. And now I'm kind of living on it. So it's a half-hour time where I meet with young people and talk about writing, maybe read a poem or a little excerpt, talk about a particular topic, give a prompt, even do a little writing, give like a 4 or 5 minute prompt and have them write. in my presence on Zoom, which I think is important. And I'm writing at the same time, and we talk about the process and what we came up with. And I brought 2 poems that were written by 2 students. One was back with a talking about the full moon in it was February, I believe, and the other was written yesterday with one of my students.
Okay, we'd love to
Ready?
hear them.
So no joke, but yes, poems. All right. This is a poem titled Moon by student Ariv over in the middle school. Shining along on the street, the spectacle I saw that some call the supermoon, but I have a different way to describe it. I call it a magnolia for its pretty white glow and for the spectacle it is. And we went out one lesson, just looked in the parking lot at the sky because we had a full moon and a Venus out there, and just talking about how important it is to feel connected to nature for writing. And I realized the full moon is tonight again, and it is a flower moon is what it's called, which is interesting timing for Arif's poem.
Yeah.
And the second one was written by Arhan yesterday in our Zoom meeting, and he had probably 3 or 4 minutes for this one. And the prompt I had read in a book for working with students was "In a Better World." Just that little phrase, and what would you envision? And we started by making some images and talking how images can sometimes jostle the words and thoughts we have. And this is what he wrote. In a better world, we would treat everyone equally, yet respect our differences. We would all come together to put protests, conflicts, and wars behind us. We would help the ones in need, give homes to the homeless, money to the poor. We would always know to do right, even in times dark as night. And I was quite inspired. I didn't know where he was going with that. And I could tell that he's very thoughtful about what's going on now and integrating that into who he is as a young person and writer.
Wow. That's really impressive, that these thoughts coming out of that and that prompt.
Yeah.
I was wondering, do you do these individually, or do the students meet at the same time with you on Zoom?
On Zoom, it's individually.
Okay. And I'm wondering, Cheryl, if you could just tell me, I think I have like a suspicion, but I think it's really interesting to say, why do you do this?
Okay, when you say this, what do you mean?
Why do you bring artists together to share their art? And why do you run classes where you're teaching youth how to express themselves in poetry? Why have you been doing this for years and years?
Well, that's a great big question that could take a lot of wind, but I'll see what I can say. I think it has to do with my, at one point, feeling gratitude when I was here in Hopkinton, having my family being maybe 20 years ago, and being able to raise my daughters here and with my husband, and coming out of work as a psychologist, kind of focusing my own life and going back to my childhood interest in creative writing, starting with stand-up comedy, but then going to poetry and getting involved with creative writing and poetry as an adult rather than a child. Seeing the process that offered me as an adult and as a psychologist. I was still teaching psychology at college too. The great importance of the creative process for us to tap into our inner selves and experiences and wisdom, and looking outward into the world around us, and wanting to make it a better place while we're here, and that we all have possibility and invitation to do that. So I thought, well, what's possible with who I am and what I do? And So I started with things that were in my realm of familiarity. One thing led to another. I read a poem at an open mic. Someone asked me to host an open mic after hearing me. And I said no. Then I changed my mind. And then I went over to Bellingham to some cafe to start it, and they closed. And I came over to the Hopkinton Center for the Arts. And they kindly took me in at the CAA at the old house, the farmhouse, and you heard about it and brought the camera in. It was very squishy as people came more often, and you invited art to happen over at the wonderful studio there. And I never thought about doing anything with TV since sixth grade. One day, it was my best day in school, coincidentally, that we did a laugh-in spoof. We created the skits, and we actually had a movie camera back then, and we filmed it, and I loved that, but I had never thought about getting involved with TV afterwards. And it's interesting how it all evolves. I think it's out of gratitude for what we do have, what I do have, and looking at what can I do to contribute from what I know and can do.
Curious what your thoughts are. How your background in psychology has affected your art, and do you think you would still have done the things that you have done without that influence?
I don't know. How can I say? But I think it's really an interesting journey. And I think that psychology, yes, has inspired the way that I have provided opportunities for people in the art, as well as my own experience. I see how it has helped me to open my eyes to the world in a more expansive way, and that I have been able to get more clarity and understanding through writing and sharing with others, and also to learn and listen from others as well. So not just for focusing on my own art, but opening it up to learn from others. So psychology is a big part of it. And for me also to see that we have the potential to tap into the spirituality of ourselves, no matter how you look at that, not as religion, but that the deeper selves of us who are exploring why we're here and making meaning out of life is something that art can do too. And that's been important, and it's gradually evolved. It never started out really. I was in stand-up comedy. I didn't mean for any of this to happen, but the interesting thing also is that when I was reading my 10-year-old diary to my daughters years ago, when they were about 10 and 12, I discovered that when I was in middle school, I had a poetry club back then where I invited maybe 3 of my nerdy friends to sit on the cement slab out at recess while everyone else was running around, bring our latest poem and read them to each other in a circle. We called it the Cheryl Perreault Poetry Club. And I forgot that. I totally forgot that I did something like that because it's been a busy world in psychology and school and all that and parenting and
Right.
it's like, wow, I did that same thing I'm doing now, and just kind of being open to what life offers in the hard ways and in the good ways.
Yeah.
Well,
So
speaking about
yes.
things, speaking about things you're doing now, Cynthia chimed in on YouTube, and I wanted you to share the project Words of Hope that
Yes, I
you
would
guys are
love
working on
to.
now. Tell us all about that, please.
All right. That was on my list over here. Thank you, Cynthia. Yes, Cynthia is quite an inspiration, quite a force. I just interviewed her last week on the Friday night show, and Cynthia had the vision for our 300th anniversary to put a book of poetry. Here it is, Hopkinton Through Poetry, for our 300th anniversary with 36 people in our town, some who wrote for the first time, some veteran poets and writers. And we put that book together between March and November, collected the poems from 36 folks, put it together, got it published over at Damiano's Publishing, and had a grand reading in November to celebrate the 300th anniversary. And that was Cynthia's vision. And it's a pleasure to work with her. Now we have this new idea she came up with, poetry and stories of hope for challenging times. And we're putting a call out right now for people to send their original poems and also stories up to 500 word count to us at Hopkinton through poetry.com. You can look at the website there. It's Hopkinton, THROUGH, and poetry.com. If you have original poems or stories of uplift that we can inspire, give each other hope with these words, and we're planning to have some of them shared on our website on film, as well as an upcoming anthology book, number 2. So I'm excited. We have 63 contributions already, and we're posting in Hopkinton Independent, and we'll send another one through HCAM too. And looking forward to putting that together and reading what everyone has to say.
And do you have a deadline on that you're looking for submissions by?
Yeah, May 30th at this point. So you have time, Jim and Mike and Tom and John Ritz.
Yep. Where did that come from? That program that you're now running, the Words of Hope that connect us in challenging times. How did that happen?
Oh, that was Cynthia. Her vision for that. It's hope has been on my mind for the past year. And I don't know if I said that to her or not, but I've been preoccupied in thinking about hope the last year and asking people for their stories about it, just thinking about it. Now, it's so important. That word's so important. And Cynthia was telling me about something we did an interview, how she had put these anonymous little notes of hope and inspiration to her neighborhood, about 120 or so, just as the pandemic and the quarantine were getting started, to lift those in her neighborhood. And this came shortly after. Her mind is always spinning with the next creative thing she's going to be involved with. She's an inspiration to me.
Yeah. How is your writing going?
Mine's a little slow, but I've been writing occasional poems, mostly inspired now by going out and just sitting still in my yard and starting to process. I feel like writing is going to be really important to process this whole experience, not only for myself, but others, in terms of emotions and grief we all have to go through, and processing of how we're going to rise from this and have the potential to become a better civilization and look after the whole of us and our planet. So I think writing is going to be really important for everyone. And it's been slow for me because I've been a little stunned by everything, but it's starting to come. I'm also journaling through this time, which is important for me and maybe of use later.
Do you write stories, or do you write poetry, or both?
Poetry, some stories. I'm starting to think of documenting some of the stories of my life. So true stories that can be used perhaps for oral tradition of storytelling passed down in my family. I see the value of keeping them and using them in the different groups that I've been hosting. To pull a story out of your hat, as my friend Alan O'Hare, who calls himself a storytelling Shawnee, he calls them putting pebbles into the river by offering just little stories. They don't have to be all performance based, but we all carry stories, and other cultures and traditions consider them to have a great deal more value, even as medicine for people.
So we have about a minute left, and you know what I see?
Well,
I see a bookshelf behind you.
Yes, I have a mess of books around me.
What are you reading lately?
Well, I picked up Mary Oliver's new and selected book of poems, and behind me, I've been here. Let me. Okay, How I Found Life and Freedom on Death Row. The Sun Does Shine. I have this from the Hopkinton Library. I've been taking advantage. I took about 5 or 6 books out there, some books of poetry and essays over there, Ursula Le Guin.
Yeah.
So I'm enjoying my stash, and I will return them
Ah.
on time when they're called for.
All right.
Thanks, Cheryl.
That is awesome. Cheryl, we are out of time. Thank you so much for
thank
spending this half hour with us.
I'll see you Friday night, and I hope other folks will join 7 to 8.
Thank you.
It's our last
care.
program. Yes, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody, for watching, and we'll see you next time on the Hangout Hour.
We're off on TV.